Good afternoon. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Raw. I am excited to introduce my guest this evening. His name is Dave Vargas. Dave is coming in from the East Coast of the United States. Welcome to the studio, Dave.
I'm happy to be here, Jay. Happy to be here and co-create with you and, help elevate the vibrations of all the men and women that's watching us tonight.
I'd like to welcome those of us that are joining in from around the world. We always have guests that come in as far away as the Netherlands, sometimes Australia, the UK, Canada, of course, the US, and many countries in between. If you are watching us live with us in this moment, I would love if you would, in the comment section, let us know where you are, where home is for you today. And if you should hear something that resonates with you and you like it or love it, would love gently press or touch the love or like button on your device. This is not a monologue, but a dialogue between Dave and I, as well as those of you that join us tonight. It is East Coast, 8 p.m., where Dave resides back in, I believe it's, you are in the town of New
Bedford, Massachusetts.
Yes. How I know that city, I haven't been there, but I believe my fiance, Mary Kelly, was born in New Bedford. And we did have a conversation about that the first time we chatted offline. Well, offline for others, but definitely online for the two of us. What was interesting is when you and I met, we had a nice conversation on video chat. And it wasn't, it's been about a month and a half. We were supposed to get together not too long ago. I postponed the show, which is very rare for me, unusual, but what I did, in fact, do that. And about 30 minutes before showtime, I realized, I was like, I wonder what Dave and I are going to talk about tonight, because there's so much, there's so much things that we could talk about. Like, for example, we could talk about sports. We could talk about politics. We could even jump into religion. We could talk about your golf game or mine.
Mm-hmm.
But really, how important is any of those topics?
Not really. It's and the things, the great pastimes are something to waste time with, but it only creates division, in my opinion, with people, no matter what. The best of friends. I like red. No, I like blue, and this is so it's. As you said, I'd rather have a discussion where, as I was saying, that we can co-create with, and help elevate the vibrations of those that are listening in, watching tonight. I think they would gain much more from that, and how we've turned wounds into wisdom.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned vibrations. I presume when you were a young boy growing up, you were probably spinning on a different type of vibrations.
Absolutely. I had a wild imagination. I mean, I still do. Highly sensitive. My son has been diagnosed with that as well. Highly sensitive, and so with those things, I had the craziest imagination. I was into everything. I loved sci-fi. When I was a kid, that's when Star Wars was around. We're watching Doctor Who on PBS. This is, of course, when we, only had broadcast television. So I am, showing my age a little bit. And so I loved life, as a little kid, or a little boy. And that changed as it went on. That changed as it went on. My father, who was, I didn't find out till much later, senior year in high school, but my father was a very angry man, didn't know how to handle stress whatsoever. And he would be driving a cab all day in Boston, and the Boston traffic, it can test the most patient monk. And He'd come home a very, very angry man,
Mm.
very angry. And he would take that out on the rest of us, and mainly me. And, uh, you know, he was from that cloth, from the old days of dinner had to be prepared, take my shoes off, hand me the remote, and serve me. And just made nothing but demands.
Were you an only child, or did you have siblings?
I have two other brothers that are under me. I was the oldest, and my mom and dad had three children together. So I had two brothers under me and a sister at the time.
Do you think that you being the firstborn played a factor in your experience, or were all of your siblings impacted by your dad?
They all had a little bit of it, but when you look back on it, I didn't know it then. But essentially, they're my stepbrothers and stepsister. So I was not his blood son, and I took the brunt of it. And to have a highly sensitive child and a highly angry man that couldn't handle stress, that was just the most deadliest of combinations to have. I was in front of the worst person to be around. That was the opposite person that I needed to be around at that developing age.
How old were you when when you were aware that you were starting to receive your dad's anger in a hurtful way, that you
Uh,
recall?
five or six. I remember things like that. His anger, the withholding of love, and not allowing any victories. Even as us as parents now, or and with your children, you're playing games and you're about to win, but of course you delay it and you let the child win, and you make a big deal about it. You win. This is not to confuse where all children should get awards and things like that. We should teach our children of effort and the merit of that effort. But I'm meaning more of just never being supportive whatsoever. And so I remember things as far early as 5 or 6 years old.
Where is your mom in this triangle at this point?
She was the support. She was in the sidelines. I mean, no one was doing anything. My father was a very large Spanish, uh, you know, probably at the time 350 pounds, 6 feet tall, uh, imposing figure. And so no one said anything to him ever. It just letting it go. And that
Was
it
he
was
abusive towards your mom at all, or was it mostly directed at you?
mostly directed at me. I would feel that it would be more of the yelling, the screaming towards her, or the demanding, or losing his cool. Because people with anger problems, they cannot handle challenges, they can't handle stress. So and their anxiety. So I from simple things of having to go to an event, and it would just be this crazy ordeal, and he would yell and scream at my mother, but in an explosive way, because couldn't handle with stress.
How did you learn how to survive in that home? What did you do?
It I mean, I would retreat into my imagination a lot. um You know, this was around before my brother Arthur was born, or along the same lines. So I was always with my music, and I was into music early on, and just my imagination. It would just be I would just be off in my room, and that's the only way I could deal with it. I would just hide away from it. You know, I didn't have anything constructive, of course, because then as time goes on, that's your reality. That's all you know until you start spending time, you know, when you start forming friendships, and then you're seeing other households. I'm seeing, you know, friends with their fathers look like them. You know, I'm Swedish. I my last name may be Vargas, but I don't look Spanish whatsoever. You know, and that was a tough thing too, is seeing that, you know, seeing people that looked like each other. But I was so naive because of being told, you know, you have no common sense, you're stupid. I was that naive. I just thought that I looked like my mother. It, it was, I had that, you know, naive about me that I just, oh, I look like my mother.
How did this impact you as you aged in school? What was life like on a playground and going to school for you, having been so, let's say, impacted by your dad's behavior?
Well, it was everything. Uh, I was always constantly uh, bullied. I was constantly picked on. Um, you know, you're not having that, again, that making sure your hair's looking good, you know, you're dressed right. So, you know, no matter where I went, I was ostracized. So I was battling at home, and now battling at school. And of course, when you're getting off, um, you know, getting off the bus, you're getting into fights. And so that was a constant thing. So it was this inadequacy, there's no fitting in whatsoever, no sense of safety, no sense um, of belonging at all. My mom was, you know, my savior with school and things like that. I mean, she would try to build me up. That would be the only person that would, but that was only when we were in private. That was never around my father
Yeah.
or her stepping into that.
Dave, what I'd like to do is just take a moment here just to acknowledge you and thank you and honor you for stepping into the studio tonight, because this is a topic that is very difficult for most people to even think about. We are impacted by our past experiences, especially in our childhood. But for especially a man to step forward and have the courage to share your past story that had such a profound impact on your life takes a lot of courage. And what it shows me is that you have done some significant work on healing, some healing work for yourself to be able to have the courage to step in tonight and share your truth. Because what we know is that we're only as sick as our secrets.
Mm.
And for my own healing journey, from my own wounds and traumas from my past childhood and school years, I found that when I started to open up and share it in a very public way, it was an excellent way. It was a beautiful way to begin to heal, because I needed to hear myself speak the truth and no longer
Mm.
holding it in, because by holding it in, it was causing such tremendous damage inside of my own mind, body, and soul. And so thank you for stepping in tonight.
Well, thank you for having the forum for this. I believe this affects many men or women. I also and many men, of course, and they're not getting that chance to openly say it. And men in general, even probably under the best of circumstances, or young men, they're not, the old guard of, get the hell up and don't share your feelings, not be a communicator or understand the feelings that you have and to learn how to work through them. Hence my father, and so, because that's clearly not what he did for himself. And so I think it is one of the most amazing things to have shows like this that you have, to share your story and other men's story, to help give courage and help in the maybe the beginning process of having the strength to heal. The big thing that has been a giant theme for me this year, if anyone's listening, because you said that before, say that again. The our secrets
We're
are,
only as sick as our secrets.
yes, and I have one of that's a brilliant line. Okay, you need to put that down somewhere.
I
And
just, I just did.
yes, and so vulnerability is power. Vulnerability is strength. And as you said, no, once you rip that open, once you bring that out of you, no one can hurt you. There's no shame anymore. This is what I am, or this was what I was. And so I hope things like this will give somebody the courage to begin their journey of healing.
That's why we do what we do, right? We show up today, not only for ourselves, but by putting out our reality, our truth of how it was. The intention is to maybe perhaps inspire, touch one person, man and or woman, that hears something that resonates and then gives them the courage to either up their healing journey or begin to face their own shadows from their past. Because as long as we're living in our shadows, we're living in what I like to refer to as inner bondage.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention is to break free. And when we break free and break through, there's where we find freedom, my friend, freedom.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. It's the only way to be free is to be me, and it's not the me that anybody else thinks I should be. Not my neighbor, not my loved one, not my partner, not my father, not my mom. God rest her soul. It is to be exactly who I know I am, and it is to break through those illusions, the bondage of those wounds, and to stand tall. And it's being who you know you are, and it's bridging the gap from knowing who you are and being who you are.
That's beautiful.
That I've said that before. There's a big gap. Every one of us, know what to do or have an idea, know who we are, but until you are stepping out of that and stepping, forward, showing up, you won't know really who you are until you do it, because it is that strength. You reveal to yourself, I did it. I'm out there. There's nothing worse, there's that children that are afraid of the dark, but it's even worse when there's, adults that are afraid of the dark. And so
That's a beautiful, really metaphor right now. As children, what child is not truly afraid of the dark?
Hmm.
And so if you think about this is so powerful, Dave. I never heard it described this way, but what stops the majority of people from showing up to work, when I say work, to heal their
Yes.
own wounds and defining moments in their life, is the fear of the dark, the fear of the darkness. But we have a choice. You see, here's another beautiful one that I love to share when I'm coaching my clients is we have a choice in life. We either live in pain, darkness, or we feel the pain. But because when we feel the pain, we get to move through it. We get to release it. We get to accept that things didn't happen to us, but they happened for us.
Yes. Absolutely. I I couldn't agree more with you on that. I look back on each and everything, uh, what my father put me through, um, to my brother passing, my mom passing. My brother is in jail for a very long time. My sister disappearing off the face of the earth, facing being homeless quite a few times. To to completely be have everything ripped away from me, and it wasn't a um, I mean, during the storms, you say, why me? But when you look back on it, you really know this was for my benefit. This was for me to find out what it really feels like to have nothing and to know that we never needed any of that. We
What
never
what
need
is it? What is it that we need?
the self-love. That's to return to love, the love that we were born into. You know, when
Yes,
we,
yes, yes. Thank you. You
you know,
nailed it.
yes, the love that we were born into when we were in the womb, when we had everything that we needed. We didn't pass judgments. We had everything that we needed, and then when we came into this world, we learned fear, and we forgot the perfect love and the perfect joy and the happiness that is our inheritance. You know, and so that when you reconnect, when you find the self love, you're rejoining with source, with the divine, tapping into the abundance blueprint, if you will, because of having that self-love. You're at one with everything, and it's a beautiful feeling to let go of that resistance, let go of anger like my stepfather had. This is the first time just freely I called him my stepfather. um
Hold on a minute. Hold on.
yeah.
Take a nice deep breath.
Yes.
What do you mean when you just said this is the first time I'm calling him my stepfather?
Well, I should say in a just a normal conversation, because that's, he wasn't really my biological father. But because that was the man that was with my mom from day one, even before I was born, um, I always called him my father.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
yes, yes.
How are you, by
Um,
the way, how are you feeling right now? Because, I know this is that I've been, uh, I've been on the other side. I've been in your hot seat right now a few times being interviewed. And, I know from my experiences that when I go back and share the story, it it brings some of the emotions back up. And even though we're here, we go back to there to an
yes.
extent. How are you doing right now? Are you okay?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, you remember when you talk about it more, you do remember it. I was doing work with a client the other night, and because we do, even when we heal, there's certain things that we do suppress, or we vaguely go over it, or this was the narrative that we built in our head. And I was, recalling more things of being thrown up against a wall and hearing explosive anger. So it's been something that I've been touching upon lately. It But I feel pretty damn good to expose that. It's people need to hear that. They need to hear vulnerability is power and strength. And as you said, freedom.
How do we get this message out to probably half of society? Millions of men that have not awakened yet to this understanding that vulnerability is power. That vulnerability is, in fact, freedom. I coach a lot of men and women, but I will share this with you. The majority of women that I work with and have worked with are challenged with the same, let's say, opportunity in their relationships. And it's being in a relationship with a partner that is emotionally detached, emotionally unavailable. I know we got some people, all over the US and abroad and other countries that are out there doing the work that you and I are doing today, which is redefining the definition of what a real badass means.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think we can reach more men? Because this is a platform. My intention for this platform was just that, is to reach more men. And at the beginning, my biggest fear of launching this show,
Yes.
which is just over a year old now, was where and how am I going to find one man to show up?
Yes.
And Debbie Garcia, one of the co-founders of Spirituality Gone Wild, she said to me, they'll show up. I'll help you find them if need be.
Yes.
But they'll show up. And it's just, that's exactly the truth. That's how it's happened. So there is where the hope for me lies, that for every one man that has the courage to show up and show some vulnerability, be real, be raw, and speak the truth, even when the truth has got some residual behind it, some pain, some wound, some suffering. We understand that through sharing it, we get to release it. We get to let it go. And I don't know what you weighed when you came in tonight, but I guarantee you, when you leave the studio, you're going to be at least 3 to 5 pounds lighter, because that's just how it works.
It really does. Each and every time, it's so much more freeing when you show up, as you said. It's sharing how we can reach more men, and it's by accepting it first. We have to accept that we have to show up I have to show up for myself. I have to be that demonstration of it, period. It's first and foremost for myself. And then I have to do that for others as well. And this is what it means to be a compassionate, loving, communicative, masculine male that does, look upon the errors of their way, or the wounds, and they fix it, and be that demonstration. That is sharing the miracle, is when we share that with others. We're sharing that they're not alone, that separation is an illusion, and that each and every one of us has gone through just about the same thing, and in one form or another. And so it's through our demonstration and our giving is how we can let them know that they're not alone, and that there's hope and there's a better life, instead of chasing after false idols.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Dave. It's interesting because I was chatting this afternoon with one of my friends and clients, and what I shared with him is that when we experience painful moments in our childhood, and they impact our life, we carry those experiences into our adulthood through cellular memory, and it's deep within, at the soul level. And the inner child that's still alive is carrying all of that until we show up for ourselves. And one of the things I was sharing with him was that, we inherit the belief systems and the behaviors from our parents, the good and the bad.
Yes.
And we don't realize that at some point, a lot of us become our parent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always the parent that we, let's say, that we want to be or admire, but the parent that taught us how not to behave, how not to treat ourselves, how not to treat others. But somehow, some way, we end up right there, just
Yep.
like that parent. And what I shared with my client today was that the beautiful thing is that through the healing process, we can begin to understand that we inherited that and it's not ours. We actually, with love, can give it back to them. We can give it back to them. We no longer have to carry it as it's ours because that's what we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
But today we could choose to treat ourselves differently. We could choose to behave differently. We could choose to treat other people differently. We can give it back. And my client said to me, he says, well, how do I do that if my parents no longer alive? And I said, well, there's many ways. And he said, we talked about we could have the vision of it, and we could kind of in our mind give it back. I also suggest that, and I've done this with many clients, is write a letter to your parent, and then you read it out loud to me. And then with love, you take out a lighter and you burn the letter. Yes. And that's your way of giving it back to them, not in a mean, angry way, but just release it. Mm-hmm. And another way is if you live close by to the ocean, you take that letter and you shred it like ashes, and you just set it out to sea, and you give it back. Because if it's not helpful and it's hurtful, you don't need to own it anymore. We can let it go.
It's beautiful, and it's absolutely, and you're absolutely right. You touched upon something that's very important, and we are who we are, or what we look like, and behave a little bit. It's hereditary, but we have shaped our beliefs and our behaviors from our environment. The foods that my parents liked is the foods that was served to me. It's not so much that I like that, that's what they liked. And their parents before them, that's what they liked only. And so the beliefs that we have are not even our own. It didn't even originate. And I remember early on when I was when I was married, and I remember the same thing. Nobody teaches. I was married at a very young age. No one teaches you in public schools or school systems of how to be an adult. Balance a checkbook, having a job, the stresses of the world, and I would lose it. There would be very, stresses, and I found myself having, what shocked me is I had the same explosive anger of throwing things and losing my mind, or when you look back on it, it was when my wound got poked or triggered, and I would go nutty. And it would be just like my father, who I share no DNA whatsoever with. And it's because that's how I saw somebody handle their stressors. And that completely shocked me because I wanted no part of that man. And that's when I very slowly, it wasn't overnight, when I started working on that part of me, of coping with stress, learning positive, healthy ways to do so. But it was very shocking to me because I was like, I'm him. I am him. And I refused to be like him in any shape or manner. When I was a young man and I revisited it as a young man, I've been writing for a very long time. I even wrote an article about him. But Michael Landon, who played the Charles Ingalls character in Little House on the Prairie, was the man to me. Okay, he was he was this masculine man. He looked like he could take your head off, but he was someone that was very loving, communicative, values. And so I started modeling my life after him. And it was funny, he went through the same thing. The Michael Landon real person did that with like Steve Reeves. That's why he had the long hair. Do you remember Steve Reeves at all? The actor that originally played Hercules, long time ago. He was a bodybuilder. And so Michael Landon went through the same thing of bad household and looked to a powerful, positive male figure. And he got into bodybuilding, weightlifting, and grew his hair out like the Steve Reeves character, aka Hercules. And I did the same thing. And that's when I started getting into shape, being positive, and
Beautiful.
that's how I initially started moving away from the anger, the resentment, and the poor behavior.
What do you think was the defining moment in your life when you woke up and you realized that you had become your father's son?
Well, it was when I was arguing with my ex-wife. We were totally incompatible to begin with. We got together when we were 17 years old, senior year of high school. And so we had no business to stay together. But as a young man, I already had a child, a daughter at 17, from a previous girlfriend. So the model of all that we have grown up to, get that job, marry, be with somebody, be committed, be steady, serious. I was following that failed forced model upon people. And so anyways, we would always argue. None of us knew how to communicate or had any self-love or shown that in each other's household. And I remember throwing this glass at the wall, and it was shattering. And it was actually our one of our wedding wine glasses, and that upset her. That upset me as well. And that's when I saw that was my father, the man who I shared no blood DNA with. And I could not be like that anymore.
In that moment of clarity, when you were aware that you had reached a place that was no longer serving you, what steps did you take to begin your healing journey?
Well, it was finding positive coping. When I originally started picking up the guitar as well, so music actually, being creative instead of picking up a bottle. Not that I had problem with it, but it was just, a young man's thing. Have a couple cocktails after work or whatever. So now I was instead learning the guitar, did that every day. And again, is when I finally successfully followed through with working out, cleaning up my diet, eating cleaner. It was very transformational for me. Following through with one thing in my life was transformational, and it wasn't the cosmetic; it was the mental. Because I would, and I can. It's over 10 years ago, but I can literally. It's you and the weight. It's you and the machine, and no one's preventing you from doing it. No one's preventing you from that last rep when your whole body is shaking and you need to complete that rep. It's not my father stopping me. He's not there. This is me. And I decided that I'm going to follow through. But I had to really seriously ask myself, am I afraid of being happy? I didn't know how that felt like. And I said that out loud to myself. And it sounds ridiculous if anyone says it. Are you afraid of being happy? Yeah, of course not. But I don't even think some know how that feel. And following through, again, showing up for myself, following through and feeling the joy of completing something. And it leads to more. It leads to more confidence. When you follow through or complete something, it gives you more confidence to try something else. Go a little further. And when you're going a little further, you know that, yep, it's going to be scary, but I was already scared once, and I know that there's nothing to be scared of. It's scary as hell. Some call it a terror barrier because we've never done it before. We have no from the past that will give us any sense that it will be okay. We'll get judged, we'll fail, but it is pushing anyways. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is having fear and doing it anyways. Frank Sinatra said till the day his last stage performance that he was afraid of going out every day. And he would say, if someone's telling you they're not, they're full of shit. And I don't like swearing on platforms or things like that, but that was his word verbatim. But that was his word verbatim. And so it's showing up. When we follow through, we show up, we gain just a little bit more confidence.
I love that. I experienced that myself. I've been at this over a year, just doing the work I do. I think I'm close to 100 shows between all the three platforms that I have right now. And every show before I start, I've got some anxiety. Before I go live when I'm hiking, before I hit, go live, there's that moment of, I don't want to say it's self-doubt, but there's definitely an undertow of just that. But I recently heard someone who spends a lot of time on stage say that what helps him get through those seconds before is when he puts it in a perspective of, I'm not showing up for myself. I'm going on stage for somebody else to hear what they need to hear. This particular gentleman was not going on stage to perform like a Frank Sinatra, but he's going on stage to do what we do. What we're doing right now is just talking, having a conversation, opening up, being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said it that way, it made a whole lot of sense to me, because I realized the work I do today is really to inspire other men and women that change is possible. We just have to be willing to show up and surrender. So surrender to the fear, and with dignity and grace, learn how to walk through the fear.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, and it's a beautiful feeling once you cross over, because every time you do come to realize there was nothing to be scared of, that fear is the illusion. Fear, love is what we started this a little earlier. Love is what we were born into. Love is the only inheritance, and we learned fear here, and fear is our projection of our mind. Fear is the stranger here. When you start showing up for yourself, and you, little by little, whoever's listening now, whatever it is that you want to attempt to do, doesn't have to be some exotic thing. When you step over that, you gain more confidence and more love for yourself. You're showing love for yourself. That's how things like self-love come. When you return to love, you realize that, love is the home here, and fear is the stranger here.
I love that, Dave. Thank you for sharing that. What just comes to mind is I'm gonna show some vulnerability right now and share two things that just popped for me. When I believe in this moment, the two things that I feared the most in my life. One was exiting out of a marriage that spanned 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of fear behind that, like there is for millions of people
Mm-hmm.
in this moment, right here, right now. The second thing that I feared the most was stepping off of a plank, I think about 200 feet off the top of a pine tree, and free falling. And this wasn't that long ago. Neither one of these experiences were that long ago. Both of those experiences happened when I stepped into healing, when I stepped into having hit my rock bottom at age 54, and knowing that I had to basically reboot, I had to reset every aspect of my life if I wanted to live.
Mm.
But those two moments were very defining for me, because there was a lot of energy behind stepping out of a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
the unknown. How is this going to work financially? How is it going to affect my relationship with my 3 sons? How is it going to affect my ex-wife today? How is it going to affect me? Free falling, it was the same thing. Like, how is it going to affect me? What's it going to feel like? Am I going to live? Am I going to die?
Mm.
And ultimately, as I finally had the courage to step into the free fall, and there was nothing but air and land between me. My arms were spread, my legs were spread, and I was just in total freedom in that moment. It was like I was grunting, I was screaming, it was coming from the depths of my soul, not from up here, because I pushed through this mind and allowed myself just to be in the moment. And it was just incredible. And I wrote a blog about the free fall. I'll share it with you offline. But it was
Yes,
just a
please.
beautiful experience, because what I've learned, Dave, is that no matter what, even when I stepped into the fear of walking out of a 30-year marriage, and the things that I was most fearful of happening, they all happened.
Mm.
They all exactly happened over time. But even through that, I'm still standing today. Not only am I standing, I have freedom because I learned what the true definition of self-love and self-care means for me.
Yes.
And so it didn't, it hurts at times, it's sad at times, um, on the back end. But what I have gained today is an understanding of who I am and how I choose to live my life today. And there is freedom,
I love that word.
freedom from fear.
I love that. It's liberating when you can be yourself and honoring yourself. You're no longer, when you return to love, this is not something that we do not have. Again, if anyone is listening right now, they feel that they don't have any love for themselves, or you feel like, this is it's not something that you don't have. It is something that you have forgotten. It is something to return to. It's rediscovering that, and it's treating yourself as the beautiful divine creation of God that you are. And you do not need anyone's, you don't need anybody's approval of that. You don't need anyone's validation. We will no longer, when you rediscover the love within yourself, you're no longer a part of people that dishonor you. You're no longer with people that don't have that self-love either, because they're going to keep putting conditions on you and not be free and free to be who you are and co-create together. You're not going to stay in jobs or situations or that, well, this is not right for me. And we learn through self-love how to create boundaries. Saying
Yes.
saying no to things is just as important as saying yes.
Well, when we say no to somebody else, we are in fact saying yes to
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Yes. I,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah.
Dave Vargas, you're not going to believe it, my friend, but we are just 5 minutes short of the hour.
Okay.
If you have time, we can continue the conversation for a bit longer. But what I would like to do is shift into high gear right now
Mm-hmm.
and invite you to share what is your purpose today. Have you figured out what your purpose in life is, and what is that about for you today?
Well, my purpose is to show up as myself, as someone that is to help improve the quality of life for other people by helping them improve the quality of their thoughts. And I do that through my writing, my speaking. I do that through my coaching as well. And that means the world to me because that is my gift, my purpose. It is why I had to be stripped of everything. And it was to find myself and to connect with others that have gone through the same exact thing. If I was talking and speaking to people about tennis and I never picked up a racket in my life, it's disingenuous, and I'm helping nobody. I want to help heal the separation, that men can heal themselves, that men can be tall, masculine men, powerful, loving men, and have healthy relationships, and to do that with women, and to know that there is, to find their worth, to rediscover, learn their worth, and now they can know it and return to love. That's my purpose, and that is everything. That is my goal. That is my life's mission, to help people return home.
Ah, You got it. That's the work that I share today as well. Is it's about coming home. And as I shared with one of my clients today, I said the intention has been set, and the intention is for you at one point for you and I to be sitting together,
Mhm.
and for me to say to you, "Welcome home."
Mm. It's a beautiful, beautiful. I couldn't
That's the
even
work we
add.
do, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't even add anything onto that. It is the work that we do, and to share that you're not alone. Anybody that's listening to this tonight or even the replay, and you are feeling that, you know, replaying the movie reels of the past and feeling alone, you're not, and reach out to one of us, because this is what we're here to do, is to heal that separation. We are one. We are in unity, and this is what we're here for, is to help each and every one of you in our unique ways.
Do you think there's a difference between being feeling lonely and being alone? And what does that look like for you?
Yes, that's to me two different things. Lonely is you're searching for that validation. You're searching for someone to give you that self-love that you do not have. Where we have a void, we want to fill that. We want to fill that with drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex. Um, give me, give me, give me, give me. Give me something I don't have. And alone is just a physical thing that I'm by myself, but I'm happy. And any person that has some emotional mastery, any man or woman that feels that they have shown up for themselves, they can entertain themselves. We don't need to, throw ourselves at anyone that says hello. We don't need to be a part of things just to feel alive. We can entertain ourselves. We're creative beings. We're eternal creative beings with infinite potential.
Funny you should say that. Just before showtime, this little note was handed to me. This little note is about a half-inch by half-inch square. And it says, "Love is an experience of infinity."
Hmm.
Now, I don't know where this showed up from, but it just showed up on my actually it showed up on my little rock here that says hope. How appropriate is that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's perfect. And it's perfect. That is, when we have it, we feel it and we know it. We're part of the one, and we've returned home. We want to help each and every one of you return home as well. And there is hope.
Hmm. Dave Vargas, I would, there's two things I want to share right now. One is you're not expecting this. And sometimes I like to throw some curveballs at my guests. And I'm going to throw you one. And
Okay.
you have permission to set a boundary with me. We're going to practice right now. But before we go there, I'd like to invite you to come back into the studio because there are so many topics that are just flowing through me right now that we could touch on. We could do show after show after show, Real Men, Real Talk Raw, talking about things like acceptance, things like forgiveness, things
Mm-hmm.
like healthy intimacy. What in the world is that look like? Things like how to become communicators, how to detach from being unemotionally unavailable. We could talk about sports if you want, but there's so much to talk about. We could talk about what the true definition of success means. There's so many topics. I'd love to have you back. I've really enjoyed having you in the studio tonight and sharing this moment on August 9th, 2019 with me. It's been beautiful to have you in the studio, for you to show up and just be your authentic self, show vulnerability, share your truth, and not be afraid, but understand that through showing up, it's another layer of healing you get to do for yourself. And so thank you for that. I would like to ask you, I know you like to play guitar. I know you
Yes.
practice guitar. I know you write your own songs.
Yes.
I know that I don't know how relatively new you are or not at it, but I've done this a few times before. I've had a few guests step into the studio unexpectedly, and I asked them if they would be willing to push through their own story that they make up about where they're at in their skill set and play a song for us. Jasper Fox did it. Matthew Grant did it. Dave Vargas, I'm inviting you to pick up a guitar and sing us a song.
Ad lib, or it's something we've already written?
This is where we get to make choices in our life today.
That's right. Amen. Okay.
Now, for those of you that are still watching with us, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you and thank you so much for staying with us, for holding space for both Dave and myself. I'm going to thank, of course, the one beautiful angel in my life, Mary Kelly, who has been with me from day one. David Amison coming in from Ohio, Kim Alexander, Kathy Platty, thank you for being here. Debbie Garcia. Let's see who else we have. Adam De Leon jumping in. He was in the back country this last 3 days. He was hiking some significant trails up some very high mountains. I don't believe he was in Arizona, but Adam and I go back, over 3 decades. We were competitors at times, and today we are very close friends. Also, Elizabeth, thank you for joining us from Canada. Deb coming in from Canada. Kim Alexander, I don't recall what state or country you were joining us from. Please let us know in the comment center section, I should say. We also have Debbie Ritchie. Thank you so much. It was so good to talk to you this morning and to connect soul to soul. Elaine Leonard, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Kathy Watson, thank you for being here as well. Robert C. Stern coming in from New York, New York. Keith Anthony Blanchard, thank you for joining us this evening. Debra Michelle. Who else do we have? We have Allie coming in. Michael Brzezowski, one of my fraternity brothers who has shown up in my life just on time. Michael Brzezowski, thank you so much for being my friend today and really being an amazing friend to me today. I so much appreciate you. Christopher A. James, thank you for joining us this evening. Let's see if I missed anyone. I think I got us all, but as I've given you some time to figure out, I'm going to try this name. I know, Jan Hashyam. I'm not sure if I got that name right. I'm not sure if you're coming in from India, Pakistan. I could be way off. Let me know where you are joining us from, but thank you so much for joining us. Dave Vargas, close us out with a song of your choice.
I think this would be fitting. So let's start with the chorus of a song. So, okay. You are who you are. We are one. Oh, yes, we are. Who you are. Who you are. We are one. Isn't it time to heal these wounds? that's taken control of your life for too long. Isn't it time to face the truth? In all of the pain in your life that you caused, isn't it time to walk away? Let go of the fear and embrace your love. Oh. We'll end it on that.
Beautiful. Is that an original or is that sung by someone else?
I just recently wrote it.
Beautiful.
That was the chorus and the bridge piece. Yeah, I just did that a few weeks ago. Finally buttoned it up, you know, and it was about the unity and the oneness and helping and healing wounds.
Thank you so much for singing that song. It means a lot to me in this moment. I know how much it meant to you to write the song, and those words are pretty damn powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Dave, I would like to invite you to perhaps close us out with a few parting words, some thoughts that perhaps maybe one person hears that in fact may change the trajectory of their own life.
Well, it's whatever we want to, we build up layers upon ourselves to get through the day. We go through the motions. To We perform daily trivia. We're not thinking for ourselves. Um, Many men and women, we have to get up, get dressed, go to work. Uh, you know, what's for dinner tonight? What's this? We're performing daily mental trivia. And there comes a point in the time as mature adults that we have to face the fear. We have to face what's triggering and poking us because whatever we do, we're going to, it doesn't matter how many girlfriends or boyfriends that we go through, they'll have different faces, but it's going to be the same experience. We're going to run away from what scares us, what triggers us. And so we have to peel back those layers. We have to strip away the white lies that we tell ourselves that it's okay to just keep continuing on this downward spiral. There is so much power when you face the truth of who you are, face the truth of what has happened to you, what created those wounds, and that's how you heal them. And you heal those through forgiveness when you're accepting that for yourself. When you accept forgiveness of yourself and then the forgiveness of others. But I think as mature adults, it is our responsibility to do that for ourselves, showing up for ourselves so that we can show up for others. And as Jay mentioned early, that is just total freedom to be who you know you are. Be who you are. Be who you know you are. Live it. This is your chance if you're listening to this now. It may be scary, but do it. Face the truth and live the way you want to live. Everything is yours. And but if you don't stop running away from them, you're gonna have experience after experience. It'll be the same thing, time after time after time. Faces may change, but it's the same experiences. Stop being sick and tired. Stop Stop living in lack and limitation. Join the rest of us home and feel free. That's my takeaway for tonight.
Mm. I'm taking a moment just for quiet because the only thing that keeps us in suffering is ourself. And it's a choice. As you so eloquently shared, um, what it takes is courage. But on the other side of courage is freedom. On the other side of courage is experiencing what thriving can feel like.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we don't feel pain. It doesn't mean that we don't experience painful moments. We do.
Mm-hmm.
But we learn how to experience it, how to embrace it, how to walk through it with love and kindness for ourselves and for the people we care about and that are worthy of having a relationship with us. But ultimately, the most important relationship that we should be seeking every single moment that we are gifted with another breath is the relationship within ourselves. My greatest wish for everybody that I know in my life today is just that. No more suffering, no more pain, but love, self compassion, self acceptance, and self love. We can do it. This guy did it. I'm doing it. If we can do it, and we could sit here and be on the other side of it, then I know you can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Start somewhere, make a call, reach for a mentor like Dave or myself. You don't have to do it alone. That's a choice. But I'll tell you what, there are shortcuts that Dave and I will walk you through. It's called the blueprint, navigation system. You don't know where to begin. Begin. Make the call. Reach out to Dave Vargas. Reach out to me. We'll hold your hand. We'll create a safe space for you. Perhaps we'll show you love that you've been lacking and you've been waiting for decades. But give us the chance to create a safe space for you. Make the call. And with that, Mr. Vargas, thank you so much for joining me on Real Men, Real Talk Raw tomorrow. I do have a show. I'm going to be doing a show, Real People, Real Health. It's going to be a powerful show of a woman who has done some significant self-healing. I will let you all know what time that show will be coming in live tomorrow. I believe she lives in Colorado today. But we'll be live tomorrow. Real People, Real Health. In the meantime, Dave Vargas, thank you so much for joining me. I love you,
Thank you.
brother. You are
Uh,
an amazing man. And thank you for showing up in my life just on time.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love you, brother. And you showed up in my life at the right time. There are no accidents, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to co-create with you. I hope we have raised the vibrations of those listening, watching in tonight and on the replay. And, again, I love you, and God bless you.
Stay in the studio if you might, just for a few minutes, and then I'll let you get on with your Friday evening. I know it's 9:20 back there. It's a wrap. We'll catch you next time on Real Men, Real Talk Raw. Thank you for joining us this evening.